Our story begins at the dawn of time, during the true golden age of Egypt. The god Osiris was the very first pharaoh of Egypt, ruling over the fertile lands. Before his magnificent reign, humanity was wild, lawless, and lost in deep savagery. Humans wandered the earth without direction, fighting for survival like beasts in the wild. Osiris changed everything. He taught humanity to abandon their primal savagery, introducing agriculture, the cultivation of wheat and barley. He showed them the secrets of turning the soil into life. He gave them art, built the first grand temples, established the rule of law, and taught humanity how to live together in peace and reverence for the higher gods. He was the bringer of civilization, a beacon of pure light in a wild and untamed world. His people loved him so deeply that under his reign, the lands overflowed with abundance, and famine was completely unknown. The Nile River would flood perfectly every single year, coating the banks with rich black soil that brought forth endless harvests. By his side was his loyal, wise, and highly powerful sorceress wife, Isis. Together, they ruled as a perfect unit, balancing justice and mercy. Egypt was truly a paradise on earth, a golden kingdom where war did not exist. But this flawless peace was consuming one individual from the inside out with absolute jealousy and malice. This individual was Osiris's own brother Seth, the god of deserts, violent storms, and untamed chaos. While Osiris was given the rich, fertile, green lands of the Nile to rule, Seth was left with the harsh, dry, burning red sands of the desolate desert. Seth could not tolerate his brother's immense popularity, the constant adoration of the people, and most importantly, that majestic throne. Every song sung in praise of Osiris felt like a burning insult to Seth's pride. The hatred inside him festered and grew into a dark obsession over many centuries. He knew he could not defeat Osiris in an honorable, open battle, for the entire cosmos and the other gods favored the righteous king. Therefore, he eventually devised a sinister, deeply calculated, and flawless plan to eliminate his brother through absolute deception. While Osiris was resting peacefully in his palace gardens one afternoon, Seth secretly monitored him, taking his exact body measurements by tracing his footprints and his silhouette in the soil. He then secretly commissioned a spectacular custom-made chest, a magnificent coffin made entirely of precious cedar wood, overlaid with heavy sheets of gold, filled easy, and embedded with rare glowing gems. This chest was crafted to fit only and precisely Osiris's exact physical dimensions, designed down to the very millimeter. For the next phase of his dark plan, Seth threw a massive, luxurious banquet in his grand palace, inviting all the high deities of the Egyptian pantheon. Completely unaware of the darkness brewing in his brother's black heart, and always seeking to promote harmony among his divine family, Osiris gladly joined the celebration. He sat at the head of the table as the guest of honor. Late into the night, amidst the height of heavy drinking, feasting, and loud merrymaking, Seth signaled his loyal guards to bring out the magnificent golden chest into the middle of the grand banquet hall. Everyone in the hall was instantly mesmerized by its divine craftsmanship. Seth smiled warmly, masking his cruel intentions, and announced to the crowded room, "Whoever fits perfectly inside this shall receive it." One by one, the gods and guests laughed, stepped forward, and took turns stepping into the chest to test their luck. But because of Seth's precise engineering, some were too tall, others found it far too wide, and none could fit. Finally, Seth turned to his brother with a playful smile and suggested that the king himself should try it. Suspecting absolutely nothing from his own flesh and blood, Osiris smiled, stood up, and lay down inside the golden chest. And the coffin fit him like a glove absolutely perfectly. At that exact second, before Osiris could even realize what was happening, Seth's 72 hidden conspirators rushed forward from the shadows. They slammed the heavy golden lid shut, nailed it down with iron spikes, and poured molten lead over all the edges to seal the gaps forever. Osiris was trapped inside in total darkness, suffocating and unable to use his massive divine powers. Seth and his men hoisted the heavy chest containing the suffocating king of Egypt onto their shoulders, marched out into the night, and cast it directly into the raging, treacherous currents of the Nile River. The wise king of Egypt had been buried in the dark, cold waters by the ultimate deception of his own brother. Seth immediately marched back to the royal palace, seized the crown, and forced his way onto the throne. A dark era of severe drought, heavy misery, and utter chaos was beginning for Egypt, as the green fields began to wither away under Seth's scorching, dry desert winds. However, there was one thing Seth completely failed to account for: the boundless love, absolute resilience, and loyalty of Isis, the goddess of magic and Osiris's devoted wife. Upon learning that her husband had been tricked and thrown into the river, Isis fell into deep, earth-shattering mourning. She cut her long hair, tore her royal garments, put on heavy black robes, and began a desperate, relentless search across the known world to recover his body. The powerful current of the Nile had carried the golden chest far beyond the borders of Egypt, washing it ashore on the coast of Byblus in modern-day Lebanon. There, a great miracle happened. The chest had become embedded inside the trunk of a sacred tree, which grew at supernatural speed around it. The tree completely enclosed the coffin. The king of Byblus, amazed by the perfect tree, cut it down to use as the main pillar for his royal palace. Through her brilliant intellect and her powerful mystical prowess, Isis uncovered this secret. She traveled to Byblus in disguise, won the trust of the queen, and eventually obtained the sacred pillar. She cut open the wood, revealed the golden chest, and secretly brought Osiris's body back to Egypt. She hid it deep within the dense marshes of the Nile Delta. Her goal was to use her powerful magic in hiding to resurrect her husband. But Seth, kept informed by his vast network of spies, flew into a state of absolute raging madness when he heard the rumors. If Osiris returned, his tyranny would come to a swift and brutal end. Taking advantage of a dark, moonless night when Isis had temporarily left the secret hiding spot to go hunting for food, Seth infiltrated the quiet marshes. He dragged his brother's lifeless body out of the chest, and in a fit of pure, unadulterated rage, hacked it into 14 separate pieces. Following this horrifying butchery, to ensure that Osiris could never be made whole again by any magic in the universe, he scattered the 14 pieces across Egypt. He threw them deep into the Nile marshes, hidden canyons, and desolate swamps. For Seth, the deed was permanently done, and his victory seemed final. Yet Isis refused to give up, driven by a devotion that defied death itself. Along with her faithful sister Nephthys and the jackal-headed god of mummification, Anubis, they embarked on a second, even more agonizing journey. They combed through every province, every canal, and every single muddy swamp of Egypt, searching for the scattered remains of the king. Even the crocodiles of the Nile refused to touch the divine pieces out of respect for Isis's profound, heartbreaking grief. Eventually, through years of searching, they recovered 13 of the pieces. The 14th piece had unfortunately been eaten by a Nile fish, so Isis used her immense magical powers. She created a substitute piece from solid gold, making the body complete once more. Anubis meticulously reassembled the body, anointed the flesh with sacred oils, myrrh, and rare resins, and wrapped it tightly from head to toe in clean linen bandages. This very moment marks the birth of the first mummification in human history, establishing the sacred funerary rituals that would define Egypt for thousands of years. Through the combined sorcery of Isis and Anubis, Osiris opened his eyes one final time, drawing a single supernatural breath. However, he could no longer dwell in the land of the living, for his earthly body had been broken and now belonged to the realm of the spirits. Leaving the mortal realm to his cold-hearted brother Seth, Osiris descended into the afterlife, becoming the absolute ruler of the underworld, the lord of the dead, and the supreme judge. Osiris was now the guardian of souls in the afterlife, ruling the shadow world with justice. Meanwhile, on Earth, Seth reigned with absolute terror, plunging Egypt into an abyss of chaos and barren desert storms. The ultimate betrayal had succeeded. Seth had entirely usurped the throne, and the golden age of peace was completely destroyed. But would Egypt remain doomed under the rule of this tyrant forever? Would the horrific murder of Osiris ever be avenged, or would chaos rule until the end of time? The mind-blowing, catastrophic wars that followed this dark era, the magical battles, the eyes that were violently torn out, and the birth of a mysterious heir who would rise from the shadows to rewrite the destiny of Egypt will all be told in our very next video.